Elon Musk had built rockets that could land themselves. He'd revolutionized the car industry. He'd become one of the richest men on Earth. But none of that prepared him for the text message he received on a rainy Tuesday evening in March 2024. It was from Vivian, his daughter who hadn't spoken to him in 2 years. The daughter who'd legally changed her name to erase any connection to him? The daughter who'd told the world she wanted nothing to do with him, in any way, shape, or form. The message was simple. Dad, I need to tell you something. It can't wait anymore. Elon thought he knew what pain felt like. He'd lost his first son to SIDS. He'd gone through painful divorces. He'd nearly lost Tesla and SpaceX. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared him for what Vivian was about to reveal. A secret about life and death. What about choices that couldn't be undone? About a moment that almost ended everything. What she told him that day would force Elon to face the one problem he couldn't solve with engineering or money or genius. The problem of being a father who'd been absent for too long. And the cost of that absence was higher than he ever imagined. The rain hammered against the windows of Elon Musk's small house in Austin, Texas. It was Tuesday evening, March 12, 2024, and the storm had rolled in fast across the flat Texas landscape. Lightning flickered in the distance, illuminating the minimalist living room where Elon sat alone at his kitchen table. The house wasn't fancy, just a simple prefab box house near the Tesla Gigafactory, the kind that cost about $50,000. No mansion, no servants, just him and the sound of rain. There Elon scrolled through his phone, checking numbers. SpaceX had a Starship launch scheduled for Friday. Tesla's production line in Fremont was running behind again. His fingers moved quickly across the screen, sending emails, checking reports, always working. His phone buzzed with a new text message. He almost ignored it. Probably another reporter wanting a comment. Probably another business emergency. But something made him look. The name on the screen stopped his heart. Vivian Jenna Wilson. His daughter. They hadn't spoken in almost 2 years. Not since she turned 18 in 2022 and legally changed her name. Not since she told the court she didn't want to be associated with him in any way, shape, or form. Those words had cut deeper than any failed rocket launch. Elon's thumb hovered over the message. His heart pounded in his chest. What could she possibly want after all this silence? He opened it. Dad, I need to tell you something. It can't wait anymore. Can we talk? Tomorrow at 2 p.m.? Please. Elon read the message 3 times. His hands started shaking slightly. The phone felt heavy in his palm. Outside, thunder rumbled across the sky. Rain poured down harder. He typed back with trembling fingers. Yes. Where? The 3 dots appeared immediately. She was typing. Waiting. This was real. Zilker Park. By the tree where we used to play when I was little. Elon closed his eyes. That tree. He remembered it perfectly. A massive oak tree in Zilker Park with branches that stretched out like arms. Vivian had been maybe 5 years old, back when the family still lived in California, but visited Austin sometimes, before the divorce from Justine, before everything fell apart, and they'd spent whole afternoons under that tree. Vivian would climb the low branches while her twin brother Griffin chased squirrels nearby. Elon would sit on the grass, watching them, feeling something close to peace. When had that been? 2009? 2010? It felt like a lifetime ago. He typed, I'll be there. 2 p.m. Vivian sent back a simple, thank you. Then, nothing. Elon set his phone down on the table and stared at it like it might explode. What did she need to tell him that was so urgent? So important that she'd break 2 years of silence? His mind raced through possibilities. Was she sick? In trouble? Getting married? Moving away forever? Or maybe she just wanted to tell him one final time how much she hated him. That thought hurt most of all. Elon stood and walked to the window. The rain blurred everything outside into gray shapes, and he could barely see the street. The world felt heavy and dark. He thought about calling someone. His brother Kimball, maybe. Or his mother May. But what would he say? My daughter who won't speak to me wants to meet tomorrow and I'm terrified? No. This was his to face alone. Elon picked up his phone again and looked at Vivian's message. He studied every word like it held secret codes. I need to tell you something. It can't wait anymore. What couldn't wait? What was so urgent after 2 years of nothing? He opened his photos and scrolled back through years of pictures. There, a photo from 2008. Vivian at age 4, holding a toy rocket, smiling at the camera. Elon had taken that picture at the old house in Bel Air, back when things were simpler, back when his children still looked at him like he was a hero. Where had that little kid gone? How had he lost someone who used to love him so much? The rain continued pounding on the roof. Elon set an alarm on his phone for tomorrow at noon. He needed to make sure he wouldn't be late. Whatever Vivian needed to say, whatever this meeting was about, he would be there. He had to be there. Because maybe, just maybe, this was his last chance to be the father he should have been all along. Elon turned off the kitchen light and headed to bed, knowing he wouldn't sleep. His mind would spin all night with questions that had no answers yet. Tomorrow at 2 p.m., under an old oak tree, he would finally find out what his daughter needed to tell him. And he wasn't ready. He wasn't ready at all. Elon lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. The digital clock on his nightstand glowed 2:47 a.m. in harsh red numbers. Sleep wouldn't come. It never did when his mind started racing like this. He thought about Nevada, his first son, the baby who changed everything. It was 2002. Elon and his first wife, Justine, had just welcomed their firstborn child. A beautiful baby boy they named Nevada Alexander Musk. 10 weeks of pure joy. 10 weeks of thinking maybe he could balance everything. The companies, the mission, the family. Then one morning, they found Nevada in his crib. Not breathing. Not moving. The paramedics came. They did CPR for 30 minutes. 30 long minutes while Elon stood there, completely powerless. All his intelligence, all his money, all his ability to solve impossible problems. None of it mattered. He couldn't save his own son. Sudden infant death syndrome, the doctors said. SIDS. Nothing anyone could have done. Just cruel, random chance. Elon rolled over in bed, pushing the memory away. But it never really left. Nevada's death had created a hole inside him that nothing could fill. Not SpaceX launches. Not Tesla's success. Not all the billions of dollars or magazine covers or Twitter followers. After Nevada died, Justine wanted to try again. She wanted more children. Elon did too, but he was terrified. What if it happened again? What if he loved another child and lost them too? They decided to use IVF, in vitro fertilization. That way, they could have some control, some certainty. In 2004, Justine gave birth to twins, Griffin and Vivian. Healthy, perfect twins. Elon remembered holding them in the hospital. 2 tiny babies, identical at birth. He'd made a silent promise to both of them. I'll keep you safe. I'll build a future where you never have to be afraid. But somewhere along the way, that promise got twisted. Keeping them safe became building companies. Building companies became working 18-hour days. Working 18-hour days became missing birthdays, missing school plays, missing the moments that actually mattered. In 2006, Justine had triplets, 3 more sons through IVF: Saxon, Damien, and Kai. 5 boys total. Elon loved them all fiercely, but he loved them from a distance, always one phone call away, always at the office, always saving the world instead of being present in their actual lives. The divorce from Justine came in 2008, the same year Tesla and SpaceX almost died, the same year the economy collapsed, and Elon had to choose which company to save with his last remaining money. No, he chose SpaceX because he believed, still believed, that making life multiplanetary was humanity's most important mission. Tesla survived too, barely, but his marriage didn't. Elon sat up in bed and turned on the small lamp on his nightstand. He couldn't lie here in the dark anymore, with these memories crushing his chest. He walked to the kitchen and made coffee, even though it was 3 a.m. Outside, the rain had finally stopped. Austin was quiet and dark. Elon thought about Vivian specifically now, not as a baby, but as a child growing up. She'd been different from Griffin, her twin brother. Griffin loved machines and math, just like Elon. He wanted to understand how everything worked. But Vivian loved art and music and stories. She would spend hours drawing elaborate pictures of imaginary worlds. Elon remembered one afternoon in 2012. Vivian was 8 years old. She'd come running into his home office at the house in Bel Air, holding a painting she'd just finished. "Dad! Dad! Look what I made!" Elon had been on his laptop, reading reports about the Dragon spacecraft that had just docked with the International Space Station. Historic moment. First private company to reach the ISS. "That's great, sweetie," he'd said without looking up. "But Dad, you didn't even see it." He'd glanced at the painting for maybe 3 seconds. It showed a sunset on Mars, orange and purple sky, red rocks, a tiny figure standing alone looking at the horizon. "It's beautiful," Elon had said. "Very creative. Now Daddy needs to work, okay?" Vivian's face had fallen. She'd left the office quietly, taking her painting with her. That memory stabbed at Elon now, sitting alone in his kitchen at 3 a.m. But he'd been so focused on making Mars real that he'd ignored his daughter's dream of painting Mars. He'd been so busy building the rockets that he'd forgotten about the person who wanted to ride them. There were so many moments like that. So many times Vivian had tried to show him something, tell him something, share something important. And Elon had been too busy, too distracted, too focused on saving humanity to pay attention to his actual human child standing right in front of him. The last real conversation they'd had was in 2021. Vivian had been 17, just a year before she'd legally change her name and cut him off completely. She'd come to him wanting to talk about something serious, something about her identity, about who she really was inside. Elon had been on his phone, tweeting about Dogecoin or Tesla stock or something equally stupid in retrospect. "Dad, I need to talk to you about something important." "Can it wait? I'm dealing with something urgent here." "It's important to me." "Everything's important to you lately. Can we talk this weekend?" But that weekend never came. And the next time they tried to talk, Elon had been distracted again. And again. And again. Until Vivian stopped trying. Until she decided that Elon Musk the father wasn't worth the effort anymore. Now, sitting in his kitchen with cold coffee and painful memories, Elon realized he'd been given an unexpected gift. One more chance. Tomorrow at 2 p.m. Zilker Park, under the oak tree where his daughter used to play. Whatever Vivian needed to tell him, whatever had made her break 2 years of silence, Elon would be there. Fully there. So phone off. Mind present. Ready to listen. He owed her that much. He owed her everything. Wednesday morning came too slowly and too fast at the same time. Elon barely slept. When his alarm went off at 7 a.m., he was already awake, staring at the ceiling, rehearsing conversations in his head. What would he say to her? How should he act? Should he hug her or keep his distance? Would she even want him to touch her? The morning dragged on forever. Elon tried to work but couldn't focus. He opened his laptop and stared at emails without reading them. A SpaceX engineer sent him questions about the Raptor engine. He closed the email without responding. At noon, he took a shower and changed clothes 3 times. What do you wear to meet the daughter who hates you? He finally settled on simple jeans and a black t-shirt. Nothing fancy. Nothing that screamed billionaire CEO. Just a father meeting his child. At 1:30 p.m., Elon got into his plain gray Tesla Model 3. He drove himself, something he actually did often, despite what people assumed. He liked driving. It gave him time to think, or in this case, time to panic quietly. The drive from his house to Zilker Park took 20 minutes. Austin traffic was lighter than usual for a Wednesday afternoon. The sky was clear and blue after yesterday's storm. Everything looked washed clean. Zilker Park sat along the Colorado River in the heart of Austin. 350 acres of green space where families came to picnic. Joggers ran the trails, and children played on the playground. Elon had always liked this park. It reminded him that normal life still existed somewhere beneath all the chaos of running companies. He parked in the lot near Barton Springs Road and sat in the car for a moment. His hands gripped the steering wheel. His heart pounded so hard he could feel it in his throat. 2 p.m. He was right on time. Elon got out of the car and started walking toward the oak tree. He knew exactly where it was, on the east side of the park, near the trail that ran along the river. It had been 15 years, but he remembered. The afternoon sun felt warm on his face. Around him, Austin buzzed with life. A group of college students threw a frisbee on the great lawn. A man walked his golden retriever. 2 women jogged past, talking and laughing. Normal people living normal lives. Elon kept walking. His legs felt heavy, like he was walking through water. Then he saw her. Vivian stood under the oak tree, exactly where she'd said she'd be. And she had her back to him, looking out at the river. Her hair was longer now, falling past her shoulders in dark waves. She wore a simple blue dress and white sneakers. She looked so much like Justine. The same slim build. The same way of standing with one hip slightly out. The same intelligence radiating from her even from a distance. But she also looked different. More herself. More comfortable in her own skin than Elon remembered. He walked closer, his footsteps crunching on the gravel path. A jogger passed between them. Children's laughter echoed from the playground nearby. Vivian must have heard him approaching because she turned around. Their eyes met. Elon's breath caught in his chest. She looked older than 20. Her face had lost the softness of teenage years. Her eyes held something heavy. Pain, maybe, or wisdom earned too young. Hi, Dad," she said softly. Her voice was different too. Lower, more certain. "Hi, Vivian," Elon replied, making sure to use her chosen name. He wanted her to know he respected it, even if he'd been too stubborn to say so before. They stood there awkwardly for a moment, 10 feet apart, father and daughter, strangers who used to know each other. A family walked past, a mother, father, and 2 small children. The little girl was maybe 4 years old, holding an ice cream cone. She reminded Elon of Vivian at that age, back when things were simple. "Thank you for coming," Vivian said, breaking the silence. "I'd come anywhere for you," Elon said, and he meant it with every fiber of his being. Vivian's expression softened slightly, but she didn't smile. "I wasn't sure you would. I thought maybe you'd be too busy. A rocket launch or a board meeting or something." The words stung because they were fair. How many times had he been too busy before? "No," Elon said firmly. "Nothing is more important than this. Than you." Vivian studied his face, searching for something. Truth, maybe. Or just the smallest sign that he meant what he said. Finally, she nodded toward the bench beneath the oak tree. "Should we sit?" "Yes," Elon said. They walked to the bench together, not touching, maintaining careful distance. They sat down with about 2 feet of space between them, close enough to talk, far enough to feel the gap of 2 years' silence. The oak tree's branches stretched above them, creating patches of shade and sunlight. A breeze came off the river, carrying the smell of water and grass. Vivian clasped her hands tightly in her lap. Elon noticed they were shaking slightly. Whatever she needed to tell him, she was nervous about it. Very nervous. "I have something important to tell you," Vivian began, her voice steady despite her shaking hands. "But first, I need to ask you something." "Anything," Elon said. "Do you remember teaching me about Mars when I was little? About how you wanted to make life multiplanetary?" Elon nodded slowly, confused about where this was going. "Yes, I remember. You told me that the most important thing wasn't the rockets or the technology. You said the most important thing was making sure humanity had a future, that we had to think about the children who haven't been born yet." "I remember saying that," Elon whispered, his chest tightening. Vivian turned to look at him directly. Her eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Well, Dad," she said, her voice shaking now, "I need to tell you about one of those children." Elon's mind raced. What did she mean? One of those children? Was she talking about adoption? Fostering? Some kind of humanitarian work? "I don't understand," he said carefully. Vivian took a deep breath. Her hands stopped shaking, and she seemed to find some inner strength. She looked out at the river for a moment, then back at him. "6 months ago, I met someone," she said. "His name is Marcus Chen. He's a medical student at UT Austin, studying to be a pediatric oncologist, a children's cancer doctor. He's 23. He's brilliant and kind and patient. He makes me laugh even when I don't want to. He's the first person who ever made me feel truly seen for who I really am." Elon felt a confusing mix of emotions. Pride that his daughter had found someone who made her happy. Fear about where this was going. Protectiveness. The instinct of every father when their child talks about romance. "That sounds wonderful," Elon said, choosing his words carefully. "I'd like to meet him." "You will," Vivian said. "Soon. But that's not what I needed to tell you. That's not why I asked you here." She reached into the small bag beside her on the bench and pulled out her phone. Her fingers moved across the screen for a moment. Then she turned it toward Elon. On the screen was a picture. A black and white image that looked grainy and unclear. But Elon had seen enough of these images over the years with his own children to know exactly what he was looking at. An ultrasound. A baby. His world tilted sideways. "I'm pregnant, Dad," Vivian said quietly. 14 weeks along. I'm going to have a baby." Time seemed to stop. The sounds of the park faded away. The joggers, the children playing, the traffic on the nearby road, all of it disappeared into white noise. Elon stared at the ultrasound image. The tiny shape on the screen, the curve of a head, the small body. His grandchild. His first grandchild. He couldn't finish the sentence. His throat felt tight. Pregnant. Yes. Vivian pulled the phone back and looked at the image herself. Her expression was complicated. Scared, excited, overwhelmed, determined all at once. Elon's brain started working again, processing information. Vivian was 20 years old, still in college at UT Austin. Not married, young, so young. "Are you okay?" he asked, which felt like an incredibly stupid question, but was the only one he could form. "I'm terrified," Vivian admitted, and now tears were forming in her eyes. "I'm 20 years old, Dad. I'm still trying to figure out who I am. I'm taking classes. I'm working part-time at an art gallery. Marcus is in medical school with massive student loans. We barely have enough money for rent." The tears spilled over now, running down her cheeks. "I found out 8 weeks ago. I took 3 pregnancy tests because I couldn't believe it. We'd been careful, but accidents happen. And when I saw those 2 lines, I panicked. I had a complete breakdown in Marcus's apartment bathroom. Elon wanted to reach out and hold her, but he wasn't sure if she'd accept that from him. They'd been strangers for 2 years. You can't just hug away that kind of distance. "What did Marcus say?" Elon asked. "He said it was my choice, and that he'd support whatever I decided. Abortion, adoption, keeping the baby. He said he'd be there for me no matter what." Vivian wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I thought about abortion for a while. It would be the logical choice, right? I'm too young. We're not ready. We're not married. I have plans for my life that don't include being a mother at 20. She paused, looking at the ultrasound image again. "But I couldn't do it. I kept thinking about all the reasons not to have this baby, and they all made sense, but none of them felt right. And then I thought about what you always say, about making life multiplanetary, about preserving consciousness, about how every human life matters." Elon felt something breaking open inside his chest. "This is a life, Dad. A new consciousness. Maybe it's terrible timing. Maybe it's going to be incredibly hard. But this baby matters. They're real. They're growing inside me right now. And I want to give them a chance." Elon finally found his voice. "I'll support you. Whatever you need, money, housing, childcare, anything. You and Marcus and this baby will have everything you need." Vivian smiled through her tears, but it was a sad smile. "Thank you. I knew you'd offer that. Money and resources, that's always been easy for you." The words stung because they were true. "But there's more, Dad," Vivian continued. "The baby news is important, and I'm glad I told you. But it's not the main reason I asked you to meet me today." Elon's stomach dropped. There was more? What else could there possibly be? "What do you mean?" he asked. Vivian stood up from the bench and walked a few steps toward the river. She wrapped her arms around herself, even though the afternoon was warm. "I used the baby as a way in," she said without turning around. "A piece of good news to soften what I really need to tell you. Because what I really need to say is hard. Really hard. And I'm not sure you're ready to hear it. Vivian, please, whatever it is, just tell me." She turned around slowly. The sunlight behind her made her look almost like she was glowing. But her face was serious, scared. "What I need to tell you," she said, "is about why I cut you out of my life. About what happened that you don't know about. About the real reason I'm standing here today." Elon's heart pounded. "Tell me, please." Vivian walked back to the bench but didn't sit down. She stood in front of him, looking down. "It's about pain, Dad, and survival. and the choice between living and dying. Her words hung in the air like a threat. I need to tell you about the worst day of my life, and you need to know that you were the reason it happened. Elon felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. The air left his lungs. His hands gripped the edge of the wooden bench. "What do you mean?" he whispered. Vivian sat back down beside him, but closer this time. Close enough that he could see the tears still wet on her cheeks. Close enough to see the pain in her eyes. "When I was 16, she began, her voice steady but quiet, "I tried to talk to you about my gender identity. Do you remember?" Elon searched his memory. 2020. The pandemic year. Everything had been chaos. Tesla's factory in Fremont had been shut down by California. He'd been fighting with government officials, tweeting angry things, stressed beyond measure. I remember you wanted to talk about something," he said slowly. "I wanted to talk about something important," Vivian corrected. "The most important thing in my life at that moment." She pulled her knees up and wrapped her arms around them, making herself smaller. "It was June. You were at the house in Bel Air. I came to find you in your office. You were on your phone, tweeting about Tesla stock prices and California's lockdown rules. I stood in the doorway for 5 minutes before you even noticed I was there." Elon closed his eyes. He could picture it perfectly. That office, that phone, that obsession. "When you finally looked up, I said, 'Dad, I need to talk to you about something really important.' Do you remember what you said?" Elon shook his head, afraid to hear it. "Well, you said, 'Can it be quick? I'm in the middle of something.' Not, 'Of course,' or 'Let me finish this and give you my full attention.' Just, 'Can it be quick?'" The words hit Elon like stones. "I told you I'd been feeling wrong inside my own body for years. That I didn't feel like a boy. That I'd been researching gender identity, and I thought I might be trans. I used the word transgender for the first time out loud to anyone. To you. My father." Vivian's voice cracked slightly, but she pushed on. "You barely looked up from your phone. You said, 'Okay, we can talk about that later. Right now, I'm dealing with something important. The governor is trying to destroy Tesla.'" "Vivian, Elon started. "I'm not finished." Her voice was firm now, not angry, but determined. "You went back to your phone, just like that. Back to Twitter, back to Tesla, and back to saving the world. And I stood there in your doorway, feeling like I was dying inside. And you didn't even notice." A jogger ran past them on the trail. Life continued all around them while Elon's world fell apart. "I went to my room and cried for 3 hours," Vivian said. 3 hours, Dad. I cried so hard, I thought I might throw up. I cried until my throat hurt, and my eyes were swollen, and I couldn't breathe right. And you never came to check on me. You never knocked on my door. You never followed up to ask what I wanted to talk about." Elon felt sick. Actually, physically sick. "That was the first time I tried to tell you," Vivian continued. "But it wasn't the last. Over the next year, I tried 6 more times. 6. I'd work up the courage, plan what to say, and try to talk to you." She counted on her fingers. "Second time, you were on a phone call with SpaceX about the Starship prototype. You held up one finger for me to wait, and then the call went on for 40 minutes. I gave up and left. Third time, you said you had a headache and needed to lie down. I said it was important. You said everything's always important with you lately, and closed your bedroom door. Fourth time, you were leaving for the airport to go to Boca Chica. You said we'd talk when you got back. You didn't come back for 2 weeks, and by then, you'd forgotten. Fifth time, you were scrolling through Twitter, getting into an argument with some journalist. I literally stood in front of you saying, "Dad, Dad, Dad," and you looked right through me. Sixth time, I wrote you a letter because I couldn't seem to get your attention in person. I left it on your desk. You never mentioned it. And I found it 3 weeks later in your trash can, unopened. Seventh time, her voice broke completely now. Seventh time, I tried to tell you that I was thinking about suicide, that I was having thoughts about not wanting to be alive anymore. Do you know what you said? Elon couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. You said, "Don't be so dramatic. You're just stressed about school. It'll pass." Then you went back to your laptop. The world spun around Elon. His daughter had told him she was suicidal and he'd called her dramatic. He'd dismissed her. He'd thrown away her letter unread. He'd chosen Twitter arguments and phone calls and headaches over her desperate need to be heard. When I turned 18, Vivian said, I legally changed my name and my gender marker. I chose Wilson, Mom's maiden name, because I wanted to be connected to someone who actually listened. And I removed your last name because I couldn't bear being associated with a man who made me feel invisible. She wiped her eyes again. You finally paid attention then, when it was legal, when it was public, when reporters started asking you about it. Suddenly, you had opinions about me. Suddenly, you wanted to talk about pronouns and woke mind virus and how you'd lost your son. Vivian turned to look at him directly. But Dad, you never had me as a son, because you never had me at all. You never slowed down long enough to actually see me, to hear me, to know me. Elon's hands were shaking. Tears ran down his face. He couldn't stop them. I'm so sorry, he choked out. Vivian, I'm so sorry. I failed you completely. Yes, she agreed simply. You did. The honesty was brutal, but Elon deserved it. He deserved all of it, and more. But that's still not what I need to tell you, Vivian said quietly. That's just the backstory. What I really need to tell you about happened after I cut you out of my life, after I changed my name, after I tried to move on without you. She took a shaky breath. I need to tell you about July 15th, 2024, the day I almost didn't survive. Elon's blood turned to ice. What happened on July 15th? Vivian stood up again. She seemed unable to sit still while telling this story. She walked to the oak tree and placed her palm flat against the rough bark. I'd been living in Austin for almost a year by then, she said, staring at the tree instead of at him. I'd legally changed my name. I was going to UT Austin, studying art and psychology. I was trying to build a new life, a life where I wasn't Elon Musk's disappointing son, where I could just be Vivian. A family walked past with a small dog. The dog barked happily at a butterfly. Normal life, normal problems. But everywhere I went, there you were, Vivian continued. On TV, in newspapers, on Twitter, or X, or whatever you'd renamed it by then. Everyone had opinions about you, about Tesla, about SpaceX, about your politics, about me. She turned around to face him. People would find out who I was, who I used to be, and they'd have so many questions. Was I really trans, or just confused? Was I ungrateful for rejecting you? Was I doing it for attention? Why would anyone give up being an Elon Musk? Her voice grew harder. And then you started talking about me publicly, on podcasts, in interviews. You said the woke mind virus had killed your son. You made my identity, my pain, my journey, my truth, into a talking point, into a political statement, into something for your followers to debate. Elon wanted to defend himself but couldn't. Everything she said was true. He had done that. He'd been angry and hurt and he'd lashed out publicly instead of privately trying to understand. "I tried so hard not to care," Vivian said. "I tried to focus on school, on making friends, on building my art portfolio. But it was like carrying a weight everywhere I went. This constant pressure. The daughter who rejected the great Elon Musk. The ungrateful child. The disappointment." She walked back toward the bench but didn't sit. "In July, I failed 2 of my summer classes. I was working at the art gallery but barely making enough for rent. My roommate moved out suddenly, and I couldn't afford the apartment alone. I had to move into a tiny studio that smelled like mold and had cockroaches." Elon's heart ached. His daughter had been struggling and he hadn't known, hadn't checked, hadn't cared enough to find out. "I started having panic attacks," Vivian said quietly. "Real ones, where I couldn't breathe and my heart raced and I thought I was dying. They'd come out of nowhere, in class, at work, on the bus. I'd have to lock myself in bathrooms and wait for them to pass." She wrapped her arms around herself. "I went to the student health center. They said I had severe anxiety and depression. They gave me a referral to see a therapist. But the wait list was 3 months long, and I didn't have insurance that would cover it. I couldn't afford to pay out of pocket." "I would have paid for it," Elon said desperately. "If you told me, I would have—" "Would you?" Vivian interrupted. "Would you really? Or would you have lectured me about personal responsibility? About how you worked your way up from nothing? About how I should just toughen up and stop being so sensitive?" Elon opened his mouth and then closed it. He honestly didn't know what he would have done. "That's what I thought," Vivian said sadly. She sat back down on the bench, finally. She looked exhausted. July 15th was a Monday. I remember because I had to work at the gallery, but I'd called in sick. I couldn't get out of bed. Literally couldn't make my body move. I just lay there staring at the ceiling of my terrible apartment, feeling like the world would be better off without me. Elon's chest tightened so hard he thought his ribs might crack. "I'd been having those thoughts for a few weeks," Vivian said. "Thoughts about not existing, about how easy it would be to just stop. But that Monday, the thoughts got louder, more specific, more real." She pulled her phone out again and scrolled through something. Then she held it out to Elon. "Read it," she said. Elon took the phone with shaking hands. On the screen was a note, a suicide note, dated July 15th, 2024. His vision blurred as he read, "To anyone who finds this, I'm sorry. I know this is selfish. I know it will hurt people. But I can't do this anymore. I can't be the person everyone wants me to be. I can't carry this weight. I can't live in a body that feels wrong. I can't be the daughter who disappointed the great man. I can't be the controversy. I can't be the debate topic. I just want peace. I just want the noise to stop. Mom, I'm sorry. You tried so hard. This isn't your fault. Griffin, Saxon, Damien, Kai, I love you guys. Be better than our father. Be present. Be kind. Dad, I hope your mission to Mars is worth it. I hope saving humanity makes up for losing me. I'm tired. I'm so tired. Goodbye. Vivian." Elon couldn't see the screen anymore through his tears. His whole body shook. The phone nearly fell from his hands. "I wrote that note at 11 in the morning," Vivian said, taking the phone back. "I didn't send it to anyone. I just saved it in my notes app. Then I went to the bathroom and opened the medicine cabinet." She paused, and the pause felt like it lasted forever. "I had a bottle of sleeping pills, strong ones. I'd gotten them from a friend who said they'd help with my insomnia. 60 pills total." Elon couldn't breathe. His daughter, his child, his Vivian. "I poured them all into my hand," she said, her voice distant now, like she was watching herself from outside her body. I filled a glass with water. I sat on the bathroom floor with my back against the tub, and I started swallowing them. One at a time at first, then two at a time, then handfuls. "Oh, God," Elon whispered. "Vivian, oh, God." I got through about 40 pills, she continued. Maybe more. I lost count. Everything started feeling fuzzy and far away. The bathroom walls seemed to breathe. My fingers felt numb. I remember thinking, this is it. This is peace. Finally. She looked at Elon directly now. "And then I thought about something you told me when I was 8 years old. Do you remember that painting I showed you? The sunset on Mars?" Elon nodded, unable to speak. "You told me that someday people would paint sunsets on Mars. Real people. Living people. And I could be one of them if I wanted. You said I had my whole future ahead of me." Tears streamed down her face. And in that moment, lying on my bathroom floor, dying from an overdose, I thought, I'll never see that sunset. I'll never paint it. I'll never have a future. And for just 1 second, I felt sad about it. "What happened?" Elon asked, though he was terrified of the answer. His daughter was sitting here alive, but she'd just described swallowing 40 pills. How did she survive? "Marcus happened," Vivian said simply. We'd only been dating for 2 weeks at that point. We'd met at a coffee shop near campus. He was studying for his medical boards. I was sketching. He asked if he could sit at my table because everywhere else was full. She smiled slightly at the memory, even through her tears. We'd talked for 3 hours that day. About everything. About dreams and fears and what we wanted from life. He was the first person I'd met in Austin who didn't know who my father was, who just saw me as Vivian. Just a girl who liked art and bad coffee. "He sounds like a good person," Elon managed to say. "He's the best person I've ever known," Vivian said. After 2 weeks of dating, I'd given him a key to my apartment, just in case of emergencies. And he had a crazy schedule at the hospital, and sometimes he'd come over late at night after his shifts. She took a deep breath. That Monday, July 15th, Marcus had texted me around noon asking if I wanted to get lunch. I didn't respond. He texted again at 1, then 2, then 3. By 4 o'clock, he was worried. He said later that something felt wrong. He couldn't explain it. Just a feeling in his gut. Elon listened, his heart pounding. Marcus left the hospital early and came to my apartment. He knocked, but I didn't answer. He used his key and found me on the bathroom floor. I was barely conscious. He said my lips were blue. My breathing was shallow. There were pills scattered everywhere, and the empty bottle next to me. Vivian's voice stayed steady, but Elon could hear the effort it took. Marcus is a medical student, so he knew exactly what was happening. He called 911 immediately. Then he tried to make me throw up. He stuck his fingers down my throat while we waited for the ambulance. I remember bits and pieces. His voice saying, "Stay with me, Vivian. Stay with me. Please, stay with me." Elon covered his face with his hands. He couldn't look at her while hearing this. The paramedics came. They gave me activated charcoal to absorb the pills still in my system. They put me on oxygen. Marcus rode with me in the ambulance, holding my hand the whole time. He told me later that he kept talking to me, telling me stories about medical school, about his patients, about anything to keep me conscious. She paused. At the hospital, they pumped my stomach. They put me on IV fluids. They monitored my heart because that many sleeping pills could have caused cardiac arrest. The doctor told Marcus that if he'd found me even 30 minutes later, I would have had permanent brain damage. An hour later, I'd be dead. The word "dead" hung in the air like a curse. Elon dropped his hands and looked at his daughter. Really looked at her. This person sitting beside him had been minutes away from dying, from being gone forever. And he hadn't known, hadn't felt it, hadn't sensed that his child was in mortal danger. They kept me in the hospital for 3 days, Vivian continued. Psychiatric hold. It's what they do when someone tries to kill themselves. A doctor came to talk to me every day. A kind woman named Dr. Patel. She asked me about my life, my family, about what had brought me to that bathroom floor. What did you tell her? Elon asked quietly. The truth, that I felt invisible, that I'd cut my father out of my life but couldn't escape him, that everywhere I looked, there he was, being brilliant and important and changing the world, while I was just nothing, a disappointment, a debate topic, a problem he'd mentioned in interviews but never actually tried to solve. Each word was a knife in Elon's chest. Dr. Patel asked if I wanted them to contact you. The hospital asked if I wanted them to list you as family or emergency contact. I said no. I listed my mom, Justine, and Marcus, but not you. Why not? Elon asked, though he knew the answer. Because I didn't want you there out of obligation, Vivian said simply. I didn't want you to swoop in, pay for the best treatment. You'd feel like you'd done your duty, and then leave again. I needed to get better for me, not for you. She pulled her knees up to her chest again, the same position as before. Mom came immediately. She flew from Los Angeles the same day. She sat by my hospital bed and cried and held me. She said she'd known something was wrong, but didn't realize how wrong. She blamed herself for not seeing it sooner. It wasn't Justine's fault, Elon said firmly. No, Vivian agreed. It wasn't. It wasn't Mom's fault. It wasn't Marcus's fault. It wasn't my roommate's fault, or my professor's fault, or society's fault. She looked directly at Elon. It was my fault for trying to kill myself. I made that choice. But Dad, you helped create the conditions that made me feel like death was the only escape. You didn't pull the trigger, but you loaded the gun. The metaphor was brutal and accurate. After 3 days, they released me with a prescription for antidepressants and a referral to a therapist. Marcus's parents paid for it because they didn't want me to wait on the 3-month list. They're not rich. His dad is a high school teacher. His mom is a nurse. But they took money out of their savings to help me. Elon felt ashamed. Strangers had helped his daughter when he hadn't even known she needed help. I started therapy twice a week, Vivian said. Dr. Patel connected me with a woman named Dr. Morrison, who specializes in LGBTQ+ youth and family trauma. We worked through a lot. The gender dysphoria, the feeling of abandonment, the complicated relationship with you. What did you learn? Elon asked. Vivian considered the question. So I learned that I spent most of my childhood trying to be important enough for you to notice me. Trying to be interesting enough, smart enough, crisis enough to make you put down your phone and actually see me. And when I finally realized I would never be more important than Tesla or SpaceX or Twitter, something broke inside me. She wiped fresh tears from her face. I learned that I blamed myself for not being worthy of your attention. Like if I'd just been a better kid, a more interesting kid, maybe you would have loved me enough to be present. It took months of therapy to understand that it wasn't about me. It was about you and your inability to be present for anyone because of your own trauma. Nevada, Elon whispered. Yes, Vivian said. Dr. Morrison and I talked a lot about Nevada, about how losing your first child broke something in you, about how you never processed that grief. You just buried it under work and ambition, and the mission to save humanity. She turned to face him fully. "You've been running from Nevada's death for 22 years, Dad. Running so fast and so hard that you can't stop. Because if you stop, if you slow down, you'll have to feel the pain. And you're terrified of that pain." Elon nodded slowly. She was right. She was absolutely right. "So you work yourself to death," Vivian continued, "as some kind of penance, as punishment for not being there when Nevada stopped breathing. And the rest of us, your other children, we pay the price for a brother we never met." The truth of it crashed over Elon like a wave. "How do I fix it?" he asked desperately. "Tell me how to fix this, how to be better, how to be the father you deserved." Vivian was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know if you can fix the past," she said finally. "Some things, once broken, stay broken. But maybe you can do better going forward. Maybe you can learn. Maybe you can change." "How?" Elon asked. "Tell me how." Vivian pulled out her phone again and scrolled to something. She turned the screen toward Elon. "I saved this tweet you wrote, September 2018. Do you remember it?" Elon looked at the screen. His own words stared back at him. "I will never be happy. I'm not sure I want to be. Happiness for me is less important than being useful." He cringed seeing it now. He'd written that at 3 in the morning during the worst days of Tesla's Model 3 production crisis, when he'd been sleeping on the factory floor, when journalists were calling him unstable. "When I read this from my hospital bed," Vivian said, "something clicked. You're not choosing work over your family because you don't love us. You're choosing it because you don't think you deserve to be happy. You think you deserve to suffer for some greater purpose." The insight cut deep because it was completely true. After Nevada died, Elon said slowly, working through thoughts he'd never spoken aloud, "I felt guilty. We'd hired a nanny to watch him while Justine and I slept. The nanny was supposed to check on him every few minutes, but she didn't check enough. And he died." His voice cracked. "I hired that nanny. I chose her. So, in some twisted way, I felt responsible. Like if I'd been more careful, more vigilant, more present, maybe Nevada would still be alive." "Dad, Siddi's isn't anyone's fault," Vivian said gently. "You know that, right?" "I know it rationally," Elon admitted. "But emotionally? I've never been able to shake the feeling that I failed him. That I failed at the most important job, keeping my child alive. And I've been punishing myself ever since." Vivian stood and walked to the edge of the river. The afternoon sun sparkled on the water. A duck paddled by peacefully. "So you work yourself nearly to death," she said without turning around, "as penance, as punishment, as proof that you're doing everything possible to save other lives since you couldn't save Nevada's." "Something like that," Elon whispered, "and your living children pay the price for a dead one." The statement was harsh, but accurate. Elon had been so consumed by the child he'd lost that he'd failed the children he still had. Vivian turned around to face him. The sun was behind her, making her look almost like she was glowing. "I've been angry at you for so long," she said. "After I changed my name, I meant it when I said I didn't want to be associated with you in any way. I hated you, actually. I hated how you made me feel invisible. I hated how you turned my pain into politics. I hated how the world worshipped you while you destroyed your own family." Elon nodded, accepting every word. "But then something changed," Vivian continued. "In August, 2 weeks after I got out of the hospital, I found out I was pregnant." She walked back toward the bench, her hand unconsciously moving to her stomach. "I was terrified. I'd just survived a suicide attempt. I was barely holding myself together. I was on antidepressants and going to therapy twice a week. And now I was pregnant? She sat back down beside him. Marcus and I had only been together for a month. We'd been careful, but nothing's perfect. When I took the pregnancy test and saw those 2 lines, I had a full panic attack. Marcus held me on his bathroom floor while I sobbed and hyperventilated. I can't imagine how scary that must have been, Elon said. It was terrifying, Vivian agreed. But it was also something else, something I didn't expect. She looked down at her hands. As I sat there panicking about being pregnant, I suddenly understood something I'd never understood before. I understood fear. Real, deep, primal fear about being responsible for another life. Fear about whether I was capable of protecting something so fragile and helpless. She looked up at Elon. And I realized, you've been afraid this whole time. Ever since Nevada died, you've been absolutely terrified. Terrified of slowing down. Terrified of being present. Terrified that if you stop working, stop building, stop running, something terrible will happen and it'll be your fault. Elon felt tears running down his face again. She understood. His daughter understood him better than he understood himself. You're afraid that if you let yourself love us fully, if you let yourself be vulnerable and present, you might lose us like you lost Nevada, Vivian said softly. So you keep us at a distance. You love us from far away, where it's safer, where it hurts less if something goes wrong. Yes, Elon whispered. Yes, that's exactly it. But Dad, Vivian said, her own tears falling now, don't you see? The terrible thing you were trying to prevent by keeping your distance, losing your children, it happened anyway. You lost me. So you're losing Griffin in different ways. Your other kids barely know you. You sacrificed the present to protect yourself from future pain. But the pain came anyway. The truth crashed over Elon like a tidal wave. She was absolutely right. He'd been so focused on preventing catastrophe that he'd been blind to the catastrophe happening right in front of him. How do I fix it? He asked again, desperately. How do I stop being afraid? How do I be present? I don't know if you can fix what's already broken, Vivian said honestly. I don't know if we can get back the years you missed, the conversations we didn't have, the moments you chose work over me. She paused. But maybe you can do better going forward. Maybe you can learn to sit with your fear instead of running from it. And maybe you can accept that being vulnerable is part of being human. I don't know how to do that, Elon admitted. I've spent 22 years building walls. I don't know how to tear them down. Then learn, Vivian said firmly. You taught yourself rocket science from textbooks. You taught yourself battery technology. You figured out how to land rockets on drone ships in the middle of the ocean. You can figure out how to be emotionally present for your family. She stood up again, looking down at him. But here's the thing, Dad. Here's what I really need to tell you. The real reason I asked you here today. Elon looked up at her, confused. Hadn't she already told him everything? The pregnancy, the suicide attempt, the pain he'd caused? What I need from you, Vivian said, her voice steady and clear, is a choice. A real choice. Not a promise, not money, not resources. A choice about what kind of person you want to be going forward. What do you mean? I mean, I'm asking you to choose, Dad. For once in your life, I'm asking you to choose your family. Not as a secondary priority. Not as something you'll get to when the mission is complete. But as the mission itself. Elon stood up from the bench. He felt like he needed to be on the same level as her for this conversation. "What exactly are you asking me to do?" he said carefully. Vivian looked at him with those intelligent eyes, so much like Justine's, so much like his own. "I'm asking you to be in my child's life," she said. "I want this baby to know their grandfather. I want them to hear stories about rockets and Mars and electric cars. I want them to understand that their grandfather tried to change the world." Elon felt hope flicker in his chest. "I want that too. More than anything." "But," Vivian continued, and the word landed like a hammer, "I can't have them go through what I went through. I can't watch you miss their first words because you were on a conference call. I can't watch you skip their birthday because there was a rocket launch. I can't watch you make them feel like they're not important enough to deserve your full attention." She crossed her arms. "I won't do that to my child, Dad. I won't give them a grandfather who's physically there, but mentally absent. I won't let them grow up thinking they have to compete with Tesla and SpaceX for your love. I won't let them feel invisible the way you made me feel invisible." "I understand," Elon said, though panic was rising in his chest. "I'll be better. I promise. I don't want promises," Vivian interrupted. "You've made promises before. You promised Mom you'd be more present. You promised Griffin you'd come to his science fair. You promised me we'd spend a weekend together, just us. Remember that? When I was 14? You promised we'd go to Big Sur, just father and daughter. You canceled 3 times, and then we never went." Elon remembered. The memory made him sick with shame. "Promises are easy," Vivian said. "Promises cost nothing. What I need from you is action. Real, measurable, consistent action." "Tell me what you need," Elon said. "I'll do it, whatever it is." Vivian took a deep breath. "I need you to commit to 2 hours every Sunday. 2 hours where you're completely present. No phone, no laptop. No emergencies unless someone is literally dying. Just you and me, and eventually you and me and this baby." 2 hours, Elon repeated, "every single Sunday. No exceptions. Not for launches, not for earnings calls, not for meetings with presidents or investors or anyone else. 2 hours that belong to your family and nothing else." Elon's mind immediately started racing. Sundays were often when he caught up on work, when he reviewed reports from the week, when he planned strategy for Monday. 2 hours every single Sunday was... He stopped himself. This was exactly the problem. His first instinct was to think about work, to calculate what he'd be sacrificing. "Okay," he said, 2 hours every Sunday. I can do that." Vivian shook her head. "You're not hearing me, Dad. It's not just about the time. It's about the presence, and it's about actually being there mentally, not just physically. It's about putting down the phone and looking your grandchild in the eyes and being fully engaged with them." "I understand," Elon said. "Do you?" Vivian challenged. "Because I need you to really think about what I'm asking. This isn't a business meeting you can half attend while checking emails. This isn't something you can delegate to an assistant. This is showing up, week after week, and being vulnerable and present and emotionally available." She paused. "And that terrifies you, doesn't it? Being emotionally available. Being vulnerable. Actually feeling things instead of solving things." Elon wanted to deny it, but she was right. The thought of sitting for 2 hours with no work to hide behind, no problems to solve, just being present with feelings and relationships, it did terrify him. "Yes," he admitted. "It scares me." "Why?" Vivian asked. Elon thought about it, really thought about it. "Because I don't know who I am without the work," he said slowly. "I don't know how to just be. With Nevada, I only got 10 weeks. I was learning how to be a father, and then he was gone. And after that, I buried myself in work because work made sense. Work had clear problems and clear solutions. But relationships, feelings, those are messy and complicated, and I can't engineer them. So you avoid them, Vivian said. Yes, I avoid them. And I've gotten very good at avoiding them by convincing myself I'm doing something more important. But you're not, Vivian said firmly. Saving humanity isn't more important than being a good father. See, making life multiplanetary isn't more important than making your actual children feel loved. Those aren't even comparable things, Dad. They're different categories entirely. She moved closer to him. And here's the thing. You can do both. You can run Tesla and SpaceX and still be a present father. Other CEOs manage it. Other people with demanding jobs manage it. But you have to want to. You have to prioritize it. You have to believe that your children are worth 2 hours of undivided attention every week. You are worth it, Elon said desperately. You and this baby, and all my children. You're worth everything. Then prove it, Vivian said. Not with money, not with promises, with action. Starting now. Elon felt like he was standing on the edge of a cliff. One way led back to his comfortable patterns. Work, achievement, a hiding behind the mission. The other way led into unknown territory. Vulnerability, presence, emotional availability. What if I fail? He asked quietly. What if I try and I'm still not good enough? Then you keep trying, Vivian said. That's what being a parent means. You don't get to quit because it's hard or because you're not immediately perfect at it. You keep showing up. She placed a hand on her stomach where their grandchild grew. This baby is going to be born in October, 6 months from now. They might have health challenges. We don't know yet. They might need surgeries and therapy and extra care. Are you really going to be there for that? For the hard, messy, unglamorous work of caring for a child who might not fit into your vision of the future? Yes, Elon said. See, I will be there. Even if it means missing important meetings, even if it means disappointing employees or investors or fans, even if it means choosing this one tiny human over the thousands of people who depend on you at your companies? The question hung in the air between them. Elon thought about Nevada, about Vivian on a bathroom floor swallowing pills, about all the moments he'd missed with all his children, about what really mattered at the end of the day. Yes, he said more firmly, this baby matters more than any meeting. This family matters more than any mission. I'm choosing you, Vivian. I'm choosing this child. Starting right now. Vivian studied his face, searching for truth. Starting right now means your phone goes off, she said. Right here. Right now. And for the rest of our time together today. Elon reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. The screen showed 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Probably emergencies. Probably important. He powered it off completely and put it back in his pocket. Done, he said. For the first time since they'd sat down together, Vivian smiled. A real smile. Small, but real. Okay, she said. That's a start. They sat back down on the bench together. This time, Vivian sat closer. Not touching, but close enough that Elon could feel the warmth of her presence. For a few minutes, they just sat in silence, watching the river flow, listening to the sounds of the park. A child laughed somewhere nearby. A dog barked. Normal life continuing around them. Can I ask you something? Elon said finally. Yes. Why now? Why did you reach out after 2 years of silence? Was it just because of the baby? Vivian shook her head slowly. The baby is part of it. But there's more. She pulled out her phone again, and Elon noticed her hands were shaking slightly. When I told you I was pregnant, I said I used it as a way in, as good news to soften what I really needed to tell you. The suicide attempt, Elon said. That too. But there's still something else. Something I haven't told you yet. Elon's stomach tightened. What else could there possibly be? Vivian's phone rang before she could continue. She looked at the screen and her face went pale. "It's Marcus," she said, her voice suddenly tight with worry. "Answer it," Elon said immediately. Vivian swiped to accept the call. "Hey, what's—" She stopped talking. Her expression changed from curious to shocked, to something Elon couldn't quite read. "What? When? Are you sure?" Vivian said into the phone. Okay, I'm coming right now. I'm at Zilker Park. I'll be there in 15 minutes. She ended the call and stood up quickly, gathering her bag. "I have to go," she said, her voice shaking. That was Marcus calling from Del Seaton Medical Center. "There's a problem with the baby. They need me to come in immediately for more tests." Elon's heart dropped into his stomach. What kind of problem? "They found something on the ultrasound I had yesterday. An anomaly. They didn't want to tell me over the phone, but Marcus is there doing his rotation and he saw the results. He says, I need to come in right away." She was moving toward the parking lot, walking fast. Elon jumped up and followed her. I'm coming with you," he said. "Dad, you don't have to—" "I'm coming," Elon said firmly. "Right now. This is exactly what I meant about choosing you. About being present. I'm not letting you face this alone." Vivian stopped walking and looked at him. Tears were forming in her eyes. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, yes, please come." They practically ran to the parking lot. Vivian had taken the bus to the park, so they got into Elon's Tesla. He started the car and pulled out onto the road, heading toward the hospital. The drive should have taken 15 minutes, but felt like hours. Vivian sat in the passenger seat, her hand pressed against her stomach, her breathing shallow. "It's going to be okay," Elon said, though he had no way of knowing if that was true. "What if it's not?" Vivian asked quietly. "What if something's really wrong? What if I lose this baby after everything?" "Then we'll deal with it together," Elon said. "Whatever happens, you're not alone." Vivian nodded but didn't speak. She stared out the window, her jaw clenched tight. Del Seaton Medical Center appeared ahead, a modern building near downtown Austin. Elon pulled into the parking garage and found a spot near the entrance. They got out and walked quickly toward the main doors. Inside, Marcus was waiting in the lobby. He was a young man with kind eyes and tired face. Clearly, he'd been on a long shift. When he saw Vivian, he immediately walked over and hugged her tightly. "I'm here," he said softly. "It's going to be okay." Then he noticed Elon standing there, and his eyes widened slightly. "Mr. Musk?" "Please, call me Elon," Elon said, extending his hand. "I'm here for Vivian. Hey, whatever she needs." Marcus shook his hand, looking surprised but also relieved. "Okay, good. She needs support right now." "What did they find?" Vivian asked urgently. Marcus took her hand. "Come on. Dr. Richardson is waiting for us on the 3rd floor. She'll explain everything." They took the elevator up in tense silence. When the doors opened, a nurse directed them to a room at the end of the hall. Inside, a woman in her 50s, with gray hair and a gentle expression, stood waiting. Dr. Richardson, according to her name tag. "Vivian, thank you for coming so quickly," Dr. Richardson said. "And you must be Marcus. And—" "I'm her father," Elon said. "Elon." If Dr. Richardson recognized the name, she didn't show it. She simply nodded and gestured for them all to sit down. "Vivian, when you came in yesterday for your routine 14-week ultrasound, the technician noticed something that concerned her. She sent the images to me for review. Vivian gripped Marcus's hand so tightly, her knuckles turned white. "What did you see?" she asked. Dr. Richardson pulled up images on a computer screen. "We're seeing what appears to be a neural tube defect. Specifically, we're concerned about the possibility of spina bifida." The words hung in the air like a bomb. "What does that mean?" Vivian whispered. Spina bifida is a condition where the spinal column doesn't close completely during fetal development, Dr. Richardson explained gently. "It's a spectrum. Some cases are very mild and easily treatable. Others are more severe and require multiple surgeries." "How severe is this case?" Marcus asked, his medical training kicking in. We don't know yet," Dr. Richardson said honestly. "We need to do more tests, an amniocentesis to check for genetic factors, a more detailed ultrasound, possibly an MRI. Then we'll have a better picture of what we're dealing with." Elon watched his daughter's face crumble. All the strength she'd shown at the park, all the courage it had taken to confront him, it was dissolving under the weight of this news. "Can it be fixed?" Vivian asked, her voice breaking. "Many children with spina bifida live full, active lives," Dr. Richardson said. "There are surgical options, both before and after birth, physical therapy, assistive devices if needed. But I won't lie to you, it will be challenging. The baby will likely need multiple surgeries and ongoing medical care." She paused. "I also need to tell you that some parents, when faced with this diagnosis, choose to terminate the pregnancy. That's a personal decision, and there's no judgment either way. But you have options, and I want you to know all of them." Vivian made a sound that was half sob, half gasp. Marcus put his arm around her shoulders, holding her steady. Elon felt completely helpless. His daughter was facing an impossible situation, and there was nothing he could engineer or buy or build to fix it. "Can we have a minute?" Vivian asked through tears. "Of course," Dr. Richardson said kindly. "Take all the time you need. When you're ready, we'll schedule the additional tests. I'll be right outside." The doctor left, closing the door quietly behind her. Vivian collapsed against Marcus, sobbing. Marcus held her, whispering soft words Elon couldn't hear. Elon stood there, feeling utterly useless. So his phone was still off in his pocket. The world was still spinning. And his daughter's life had just gotten infinitely more complicated. "Dad," Vivian said suddenly, looking up at him with red, swollen eyes, "this is what I needed to tell you. This is the real test." "What do you mean?" Elon asked. "I found out yesterday about the possible spina bifida, before I texted you, before I asked you to meet me at the park. I already knew." Elon's mind raced to understand. "I need to know," Vivian said, tears streaming down her face. "If you can love a grandchild who isn't perfect, who might need a wheelchair, who might never work at SpaceX or Tesla, who might not fit into your vision of humanity's perfect future on Mars." The question hung in the sterile hospital room like a challenge. Elon felt the weight of it pressing down on his chest. "Is that what you think of me?" he asked quietly. "That I could only love a perfect grandchild?" "I don't know what to think of you anymore, Dad," Vivian said honestly. "You talk about optimizing everything, making humans better, merging with AI, colonizing Mars. You tweet about population collapse and how we need more babies. But do you mean all babies? Or just the ones who can contribute to your vision?" The words stung because Elon understood why she'd ask. He'd said things over the years, things about human potential, about advancing the species, about the future of consciousness. That could sound cold when you really thought about them. "Every child matters," Elon said firmly. "Every single one, including this one, especially this one." Marcus spoke up for the first time. With all due respect, Mr. Musk, Elon, those are nice words. But Vivian needs more than words right now. This baby might need surgery at birth. They might need braces on their legs. They might need a wheelchair. They might never walk on Mars because they can't walk at all. His voice was respectful, but challenging. Can you love that child as much as you'd love a healthy one? Can you show up for physical therapy appointments? For adaptive equipment fittings? For the hard, unglamorous reality of raising a child with special needs? Elon looked at both of them. Vivian exhausted and scared. Marcus protective and skeptical. Both of them waiting to see who he really was. Yes, Elon said, I can and I will. Because that baby is already real, already matters, already part of the future. The real future, not some abstract concept. He moved closer to Vivian's chair. You asked me earlier to choose. To choose family over mission. This is that choice, isn't it? This is the test. Vivian nodded through her tears. Then, here's my answer, Elon said. I choose this baby. This specific baby, whatever challenges they might face. I choose you. I choose being present for the hard stuff, not just the easy stuff. He knelt down in front of her chair so he could look directly into her eyes. I'm not saying I'll be perfect at it. I'll probably mess up. I'll probably say the wrong thing sometimes. But I'll show up. I'll be there. And I'll love this child, my grandchild, exactly as they are. Vivian searched his face, looking for truth, looking for proof that this time was different. The tests, she said. Dr. Richardson said they need to do more tests. Will you come with me? Even if it takes hours? Even if there are urgent calls you're missing? Yes, Elon said without hesitation. And if the diagnosis is severe, if they tell us this baby will need multiple surgeries and years of therapy, will you still be here? Yes. And if Marcus and I decide to continue the pregnancy despite the challenges, will you support that? Or will you try to convince us that termination is the logical choice? The question cut deep because Elon understood the subtext. She was asking if he valued potential and optimization over actual love and commitment. I'll support whatever you decide, Elon said. This is your choice, and Marcus's choice, not mine. But if you choose to have this baby, I'll be there every step of the way. Vivian broke down completely then. She leaned forward and Elon caught her, holding his daughter for the first time in years. She sobbed against his shoulder while Marcus rubbed her back gently. I'm so scared, she whispered. I'm so scared, Dad. I know, Elon said, his own tears falling now. I'm scared too. But you're not alone. We're going to face this together. They stayed like that for several minutes. Father and daughter finally breaking through years of walls and distance. When Vivian finally pulled back, her eyes were swollen but calmer. Okay, she said. Okay, let's do the tests. Let's find out what we're really dealing with. The next 2 hours were a blur of medical procedures. The amniocentesis was first, a long needle inserted through Vivian's abdomen to collect amniotic fluid. Elon held her hand the entire time, watching her face tighten with discomfort. Then came another detailed ultrasound, with a specialist who measured and examined every angle of the baby's spine. Marcus stood on Vivian's other side, his medical knowledge making him ask technical questions that Elon didn't understand. Through it all, Elon's phone stayed off in his pocket. He felt it buzz a few times, the vibration against his leg, but he didn't check it. Not once. Finally, Dr. Richardson returned with preliminary results. The amniocentesis will take a few days to get full results, she explained. But based on the detailed ultrasound, I can tell you that we're looking at a moderate case of spina bifida. The opening in the spine is in the lower lumbar region. What does that mean practically? Marcus asked. It means this baby will likely need surgery within the first few days of life to close the opening, doctor. Now, Richardson said, they'll probably have some degree of paralysis in their lower limbs. With physical therapy and possible assistive devices, many children with this type of spina bifida can have good quality of life. Some walk with braces. Some use wheelchairs. Every case is different. Vivian gripped Elon's hand tighter. There's also a surgical option called fetal surgery, Dr. Richardson continued. Around 23 weeks, we could operate while the baby is still in utero. Research shows this can improve outcomes, but it's risky, and not every patient qualifies. What would you recommend? Vivian asked quietly. I'd recommend we wait for the full amniocentesis results, then consult with a pediatric neurosurgeon. You'll have time to make an informed decision. You're only 14 weeks along. You have options. After Dr. Richardson left, the three of them sat in the exam room in heavy silence. I need to think, Vivian said finally. This is a lot. This is everything. Of course, Marcus said. Whatever you need. Can you take me home? She asked, looking at Elon. Yes, absolutely. They left the hospital as the sun was setting over Austin. The sky was painted in oranges and purples, a Texas sunset that reminded Elon suddenly of that painting Vivian had made years ago, the sunset on Mars. Marcus hugged Vivian goodbye in the parking lot and promised to call her later. Then it was just Elon and Vivian driving back toward her apartment near UT campus. Are you hungry? Elon asked. Do you need anything? No, can you just come upstairs for a bit? I don't want to be alone. Of course. Vivian's apartment was small but cozy. Art supplies covered one corner. Books were stacked on every surface. Plants lined the windowsill. It looked like her, creative, thoughtful, alive. She made them both tea, and they sat on her worn couch. The silence between them now felt different than before. Not hostile, just heavy with everything they'd learned today. Can I ask you something? Vivian said finally. Anything. What would you do if you were me? Elon thought carefully before answering. I can't tell you what to do. This is your life, your body, your choice. But I can tell you that every child is worth it. Even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Even a child with disabilities? Yes, because disability doesn't define worth. This baby will be conscious, aware, capable of love and joy and experiencing the world. That's what matters. And not whether they can walk or whether they'll work at SpaceX someday. Vivian was quiet for a long moment. After I took those pills last July, she said, after Marcus found me and the ambulance came and they saved my life, I had to decide if I wanted to live. Really live. Not just exist, but actually embrace being alive. What made you choose to live? Elon asked. Therapy helped. Medication helped. But mostly, it was realizing that life doesn't have to be perfect to be worth living. That I didn't have to be the perfect daughter, or the perfect student, or the perfect anything. I could just be Vivian. Messy, complicated, imperfect Vivian. She placed her hand on her stomach. Maybe this baby is teaching me the same lesson. That they don't have to be perfect to be loved, to be wanted, and to be worth fighting for. Elon felt his heart breaking open. They sat together on the couch as darkness fell outside. Vivian had turned on a small lamp in the corner, casting warm light across the apartment. Elon noticed the paintings on her walls more clearly now. They were beautiful, abstract swirls of color, landscapes of imaginary places, portraits that captured emotion rather than perfect features. You're really talented, he said, gesturing to the art I never told you that enough." "You never told me that at all," Vivian said, but her voice wasn't bitter, just honest. "I'm sorry for that too, for all the ways I failed to see you." Vivian pulled a blanket around her shoulders. She looked exhausted, emotionally drained from the day. "Dad, there's one more thing I need to tell you," she said quietly. "Nor the real reason I asked you to meet me today. The actual thing I wasn't sure you were ready to hear." Elon turned to face her fully. "I thought it was about the baby and the spina bifida. That's all true, but there's something deeper, something I've been carrying for months." She pulled out her phone and scrolled to something. Then she handed it to Elon. On the screen were medical documents from Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. Dated July 17, 2024. Patient name, Vivian Jenna Wilson. Elon's hands started shaking as he read. The documents detailed a hospitalization for suicidal ideation, a 3-day psychiatric hold, the specific medications administered, the diagnosis of severe depression and PTSD related to childhood emotional neglect and gender dysphoria. But there was more. A note from the attending psychiatrist, Dr. Tran Patel. Patient attempted suicide via intentional overdose. Found by boyfriend approximately 30 to 45 minutes post-ingestion. Patient consumed an estimated 40 to 50 tablets of zolpidem. Emergency intervention prevented fatal outcome. Patient expresses relief at survival, but also reports feeling guilty for burdening others. Patient reports estrangement from father, Elon Musk, and expresses that this estrangement is a significant contributing factor to mental health crisis. Elon looked up at Vivian, his vision blurred with tears. "You already told me about the suicide attempt," he said, confused. "At the park. Why show me this now?" "Keep reading," Vivian said quietly. Elon scrolled down to another document, a family contact form. It listed Justine Wilson as primary emergency contact, Marcus Chen as secondary, and under the question other family to notify, Vivian had written in her own handwriting, "Do not contact father, Elon Musk. He made it clear I don't matter to him. I don't want him here out of obligation." The words felt like a physical wound. "I told you about the attempt," Vivian said, "but I didn't tell you about this part. About how even when I was dying, even when I was in the hospital fighting to stay alive, I still couldn't bring myself to let them call you." "Why not?" Elon whispered. "Because I knew what would happen. You'd drop everything and come to the hospital. You'd pay for the best psychiatrists and the best treatment center. You'd throw money at the problem. And then, once the immediate crisis was over, once I was fixed, you'd go back to your life. Back to Tesla and SpaceX and Mars. And I'd be alone again. Except now, I'd also feel guilty for disrupting your important work." She pulled her knees up to her chest. "I couldn't handle that. I couldn't handle you showing up out of obligation and then leaving again. So I told them not to call you. I chose to face the worst moment of my life without you, rather than have you there for the wrong reasons." Elon felt like he couldn't breathe. What would have been the right reasons? Love, Dad. Just love. Not duty. Not guilt. Not because it would look bad if the press found out your daughter tried to kill herself and you didn't visit. Just because you loved me enough to be there. She took the phone back and pulled up another document. "This is from my therapy sessions with Dr. Morrison. She had me write a letter to you. Not to send, just to process my feelings. Do you want to read it?" Elon nodded, I not trusting his voice. Vivian handed him the phone again. The letter was dated August 3rd, 2024. "Dear Dad, I almost died, and you didn't know. I almost stopped existing, and your life continued exactly the same. That tells me everything I need to know about where I fit in your world. Dr. Morrison says I need to stop expecting you to change. She says I need to accept that you are who you are and grieve the father I wish I had. But I can't let go yet. I can't stop hoping that somewhere inside the man who wants to save humanity, there's a father who wants to know his daughter. I'm pregnant now. I found out a week ago. I'm terrified and excited and overwhelmed. And the first person I wanted to tell was you. Isn't that pathetic? After everything, after cutting you out of my life, after literally trying to die, I still want my dad. And I don't know if this baby will make me reach out to you or push me further away. Part of me thinks maybe becoming a parent will help you understand what you lost with me. Maybe you'll finally get it when you see your grandchild. But another part of me thinks nothing will ever be enough. That I'll always be competing with rockets and cars and the mission to Mars. That even my own child won't be important enough to make you put down your phone. I don't know what to do with these feelings. I don't know how to stop wanting something from you that you can't give. Dr. Morrison says I need to decide what I'm willing to accept from you. What kind of relationship, if any, I can have with you that won't destroy me again. So here's what I've decided. If I reach out to you, it will be one last time. One final chance for you to show me that I matter. That your grandchild matters. That family is more important than Mars. If you fail this test, I'm done. Really done. Not angry done or hurt done. Just peacefully, finally done. And if you pass, then maybe we can build something new. Something real. Something that doesn't require me to nearly die to get your attention. I guess we'll see. Your daughter, Vivian. Elon finished reading and set the phone down carefully. His whole body was shaking. Tears poured down his face. That letter, Vivian said, I wrote it 6 months ago, 2 weeks after I got out of the hospital. A week after I found out I was pregnant. I never sent it to you because I was too scared. Scared of what? Elon asked. Scared that you'd ignore it like you ignored my other letter. Scared that you'd respond with money and resources, but not with real presence. Scared that you'd prove once and for all that I was right to cut you out of my life. She moved closer to him on the couch. But then yesterday, when I found out about the spina bifida, something changed. I realized I couldn't move forward with this pregnancy without knowing the answer. Without knowing if you could really show up. Not just for a healthy, perfect grandchild, but for a real one. A complicated one. One who might need you in ways that are inconvenient and time-consuming and not at all glamorous. So you texted me, Elon said. So I texted you. And I set up this whole day as a test. The park, the confrontation about the past, the pregnancy announcement, the hospital visit. All of it was designed to see who you really are when it matters. She looked at him directly. And here's what I need to tell you, Dad. And here's what I wasn't ready to say until right now. Until I watched you turn off your phone and sit with me through medical tests and come to my apartment when I asked. She took a deep breath. I forgive you. The words hit Elon like a lightning bolt. I don't forgive you because you've earned it, Vivian continued. You haven't. You've missed years of my life. You've caused me real damage. You're partially responsible for me wanting to die. Elon flinched but didn't look away. But I forgive you because I can't carry this anger anymore. It's too heavy. It's poisoning me. And I need to let it go so I can be the mother I want to be. So I can be healthy for this baby. Tears streamed down her face now. And I forgive you because today, for the first time in my entire life, you actually showed up. You turned off your phone. You came to the hospital. You asked what I needed instead of telling me what you thought was best. You chose me." Elon couldn't speak. The forgiveness felt undeserved, overwhelming, precious beyond measure. He reached for Vivian's hand, and she let him take it. "I don't deserve your forgiveness," he finally managed to say. "No, you don't," Vivian agreed. "But I'm giving it to you anyway. Not for you, for me. Because I need to believe that people can change, that it's not too late, that broken things can be repaired even if they'll never be the same as new." She squeezed his hand. "But Dad, forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't erase what happened. And it doesn't mean I trust you completely yet. Trust has to be earned back slowly, through consistent action over time." "I understand," Elon said. "I'll earn it, however long it takes." Vivian nodded. "There's one more thing I need to tell you. The final piece. The thing that made me text you yesterday instead of waiting longer." She pulled her hand back and wrapped both arms around herself, like she was trying to hold herself together. "When I found out about the baby's spina bifida, I had a panic attack in the doctor's office. A bad one. Marcus wasn't there. He was at the hospital. I was alone. And while I was hyperventilating in that exam room, I thought about July 15th again, about those pills, about how close I came to not being here." Her voice got quieter. "And I thought, if I had died last summer, this baby would never exist. This little person growing inside me, who might have challenges but who is still a whole universe of potential. They would never have had a chance at life because I gave up on mine." Elon felt his throat tighten. "That's when I knew I had to tell you everything. Not just about the pregnancy, not just about the spina bifida, but about how close you came to losing me forever. About how your grandchild almost never existed because your daughter wanted to die." She looked at him with devastating honesty. "I need you to understand the stakes, Dad. I need you to understand that your absence isn't just sad or disappointing. It's dangerous. It's life-threatening. Your other kids are watching how you treat me. They're learning what they can expect from you, and some of them might be struggling too. In ways you don't see because you're not looking." The implication hit Elon like a truck. His other children, Griffin, Saxon, Damien, Kai, his sons with Grimes, X and little Exa. Were they okay? Really okay? Or were they suffering in silence the way Vivian had? "I don't know," Elon admitted. "I don't know if they're okay. I've been assuming they are. But I assumed that about you too." "Exactly," Vivian said. "You can't assume anymore, Dad. You have to actually check. You have to actually be present enough to notice when something's wrong." She stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the lights of Austin. "When I decided to reach out to you, I made myself a promise. I promised that no matter what happened, whether you showed up or not, whether you changed or not, I would tell you the complete truth. No holding back, no protecting your feelings, just raw, honest truth." She turned back to face him. "So, here it is, the final truth. The thing I wasn't ready to tell you until this moment." Elon braced himself. What else could there possibly be? "I'm keeping this baby," Vivian said. "Marcus and I talked about it last night after we got the preliminary results about the spina bifida. We're keeping this baby. We're going to love them fiercely, exactly as they are. We're going to fight for them and advocate for them and make sure they know they're wanted." Relief flooded through Elon. "That's wonderful. I'm not finished," Vivian interrupted. "We're keeping this baby, and we're going to raise them with or without you. Your involvement is not a requirement. It's an invitation you can accept or decline. She walked back to the couch but didn't sit down. She stood in front of him, looking down. Here's the deal, Dad. The actual terms of you being in my life and this baby's life. Are you ready to hear them? Yes, Elon said. 2 hours every Sunday. Starting this Sunday. No phones, no laptops, no work. Just us. Me and you. And eventually me and Marcus and the baby. Every single Sunday for the rest of my pregnancy. That's 26 weeks, which means 26 Sundays. If you miss even one without a life or death emergency, you're out. Elon nodded. I can do that. After the baby is born, the commitment continues. 2 hours every Sunday becomes 4 hours every Sunday. Because babies need more time and attention. And it's non-negotiable. And if you can't commit to 4 hours a week for your grandchild, then you can't be in their life at all. I commit, Elon said. 4 hours every Sunday after the baby is born. And you have to be at the birth, Vivian continued. I don't care if there's a rocket launch or an earnings call or a meeting with the president. You will be at the hospital when this baby is born. Period. I will be there. I promise. And if this baby needs surgery, which they probably will, you'll be there for that too. In the waiting room, holding my hand, being present, not checking your phone in the hallway while doctors operate on your grandchild. Yes, all of it. I'll be there for all of it. Vivian studied his face, looking for cracks in his commitment. This is your last chance, Dad. I mean it. If you fail these terms, or if you miss Sundays, or if you're physically present but mentally absent, I will cut you out of my life completely. No anger, no drama, just a clean, permanent break. You'll never meet this baby. You'll never know them. They'll grow up thinking their grandfather chose Mars over them. The severity of the ultimatum was clear. This wasn't a negotiation. It was a boundary. I understand, Elon said, and I accept. Completely. Vivian finally sat back down beside him. She looked exhausted, but also lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted. There's one more thing, she said quietly. The real, final thing. The deepest truth. Elon waited, hardly breathing. Despite everything you've done, despite all the pain and the absence and the feeling invisible, despite nearly dying because I felt so erased by you, despite all of it, she paused, the tears filling her eyes again. I still love you, Dad. I never stopped loving you. And that's the worst part, because it would be so much easier if I hated you. If I could just write you off as a bad father and move on. But I can't. Because somewhere underneath all the hurt, there's still the little girl who climbed that oak tree and painted sunsets on Mars and believed her daddy could do anything. Her voice broke completely. That little girl still wants her father, still hopes you'll see her, still dreams that maybe, just maybe, you'll choose her over the mission to save humanity. Elon pulled Vivian into his arms and held her while she cried. Really cried. Years of pain pouring out in this small apartment in Austin, Texas. I see you, Elon whispered. I see you, Vivian. I'm so sorry it took me this long. I'm so sorry you had to nearly die for me to wake up. But I see you now, and I'm not looking away ever again. They sat together on that couch for a long time, father and daughter, broken and healing, not fixed, but maybe fixable. Outside the window, the city continued its rhythm. Cars passed by, people lived their lives, the world kept spinning. But in that small apartment, something fundamental had shifted. A door that had been closed for years had opened just a crack. And through that crack, light was beginning to filter in. What happens now? Elon asked finally. Vivian pulled back and wiped her eyes. Now you go home. You turn your phone back on. You deal with whatever emergencies you missed today. You remember that you're still Elon Musk with all the responsibilities that come with that. Okay, Elon said, but on Sunday, at 2 o'clock, you come back. You show up at this apartment, and we start building something new, something better, something real. She stood up and walked him to the door. Can you do that, Dad? Can you show up on Sunday? Elon looked at his daughter, this brave, wounded, beautiful person who had somehow found the strength to give him another chance. Yes, he said. I'll be here, 2 o'clock Sunday. I promise. Okay, Vivian said. She opened the door. Then I'll see you Sunday. Elon stepped into the hallway, then turned back. Vivian? Yeah? Thank you. For not giving up on me. For giving me this chance. For surviving when you wanted to die. Thank you for being here. Vivian smiled, a real smile, sad but genuine. Thank you for finally showing up, Dad. For real this time. Elon walked to his car in a daze, and the night air felt cool against his face. His legs moved automatically, but his mind was spinning with everything Vivian had told him. She'd almost died. His daughter had swallowed 40 pills and nearly died, and he hadn't known, hadn't felt it, hadn't sensed that his child was in mortal danger. He sat in the driver's seat of his Tesla, but didn't start the car. He just sat there in the parking lot of Vivian's apartment building, staring at nothing. Finally, he pulled out his phone, still powered off from the park. He pressed the button and watched it come to life. Immediately, the notifications flooded in. 53 missed calls, 87 text messages, 12 voicemail messages, email after email marked urgent. SpaceX, problem with the Raptor engine test. Team needed his input 5 hours ago. Sun Tesla, production line stopped in Fremont. Quality control issue, millions of dollars in delays. His executive assistant, where are you? Everyone's trying to reach you. Board members are concerned. A reporter, heard you missed an important meeting today. Any comment? His brother Kimball, hey, is everything okay? People are worried. The messages kept coming. The world demanding his attention. The empire requiring its leader. Elon scrolled through them all, his thumb moving mechanically. Each one was important in its own way. Each one represented real problems affecting real people. Employees who depended on him. Investors who trusted him. A mission that mattered. But then he thought about Vivian sitting alone in that bathroom, swallowing pills, wanting to die because her father made her feel invisible. He thought about his grandchild, growing inside her right now. A baby who might have challenges, who might need surgeries, who might never walk without assistance. A baby who would be born into this world in 6 months and would need a grandfather who showed up. Elon opened his email and started typing. His fingers moved quickly, decisively. To SpaceX Leadership Team, Tesla Executive Team, Board Members, Subject. New boundaries. Effective immediately. Team, effective immediately. I am implementing the following non-negotiable boundaries. Every Sunday from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., I am completely unavailable. No calls, no texts, no emails, no meetings, no exceptions unless someone is literally dying. This time is blocked for family and cannot be moved or shortened. I will not respond to any contact during these hours. Please adjust expectations and protocols accordingly. And delegate Sunday emergencies to the appropriate executives. If something cannot wait until Monday, you have talented leaders who can handle it. This is not up for discussion or negotiation. Elon. He hit send before he could second-guess himself. Then he opened a new message to his executive assistant. Block every Sunday 2 to 6 p.m. on my calendar going forward. Mark it as family, non-negotiable. If anyone tries to schedule something during this time, the answer is no. No exceptions. No explanations needed. Send. Another message to SpaceX engineering lead. Sorry I missed the Raptor issue. I trust your team handled it. If not, we'll address it Monday morning. Going forward, Sunday afternoons, I'm unavailable. Build your teams to function without me for those hours. Send. The message to Tesla operations. Production issues need to be resolved by teams on the ground. I can't be the bottleneck for every decision. Empower your people. I'll review Monday. Send. Elon sat back and stared at his phone. He'd just done something he'd never done before. He'd set a boundary, a real one. Not a suggestion or a guideline, but a hard line. His phone immediately started ringing. His assistant. He declined the call. It rang again. SpaceX president. He declined. A text from his assistant. Elon, are you sure about this email? People are confused. Can we talk? He typed back. I'm sure. No discussion needed. Implement it. Another call. A board member. He declined. The phone kept buzzing, kept demanding, kept pulling. Elon powered it off again. He sat in the silence of his car and felt something unfamiliar. Not guilt. Not anxiety about missed opportunities or angry board members. Something else. Relief. He started the car and drove home through the dark Austin streets. The city looked different somehow. Or maybe he was different. Maybe the world hadn't changed, but his perspective had. At home, he didn't turn his phone back on. He made himself a simple dinner. Eggs and toast, the kind of basic meal he used to eat when he was starting out. When he was nobody. When success wasn't guaranteed. He ate slowly, actually tasting the food instead of shoveling it down while reading reports. After dinner, he sat at his kitchen table with a notebook and pen. Old-fashioned, physical, real. He wrote, "Things I need to do. Show up Sunday at 2 p.m. No excuses. Call Griffin. Actually talk to him. Ask how he's really doing. Call Justine. Apologize for being a terrible co-parent. Reach out to my other kids. Not with money or gifts. With time and attention. Find a therapist. Process Nevada's death properly after 22 years. Learn how to be present. Actually present. Not just physically there. Stop using work as an escape from feelings. Remember that the future doesn't matter if I destroy the present. Be the grandfather this baby deserves. Be the father Vivian needed all along." He stared at the list. 10 simple things. 10 impossibly difficult things. His old self would have created a complex system to optimize this. Scheduled therapy between meetings. Sent gifts to his kids with notes from his assistant. Found a way to half-commit while still prioritizing work. But that version of himself had created the mess he was in now. That version had nearly cost him his daughter's life. He needed to be someone different. Someone better. Someone who understood that you can't engineer love or optimize relationships or schedule presence the way you schedule meetings. Elon looked at the clock. 10:47 p.m. In less than 4 days, he'd need to show up at Vivian's apartment for their first Sunday together. Could he do it? Could he really change? He thought about Nevada, about holding that tiny baby in the hospital, feeling love so intense, it was terrifying. Then the grief so devastating, it nearly destroyed him. He'd spent 22 years running from that grief, building rockets and cars and companies and a vision for humanity's future. All of it was running so fast and so hard that he never had to stop and feel the pain of losing his firstborn son. but the running had cost him everything else. His marriages, his relationships with his children, nearly Vivian's life. Elon stood up and walked to his bedroom. On his dresser was an old photo album he rarely looked at. He opened it to a specific page. There was Nevada, 10 weeks old, smiling at the camera, perfect and tiny and gone. "I'm sorry," Elon whispered to the photo. "I'm sorry I couldn't save you. I'm sorry I let your death poison everything that came after. I'm sorry I made your siblings pay for my grief." His voice broke. "But I'm going to try to do better now. For Vivian. For her baby. For all my kids. I'm going to try to be the father I should have been all along." He closed the album gently and placed it back on the dresser. Then he set 3 alarms on his phone for Sunday. 12 p.m., 1 p.m., 1:30 p.m. Yet he wasn't taking any chances. He would not be late. He would not miss this. Elon lay in bed and, for the first time in months, fell asleep quickly. Not because the day had been easy, but because he'd finally done something real. Something that mattered in a way that transcended spreadsheets and launch schedules and stock prices. He'd chosen his daughter. He'd chosen his family. He'd chosen to be present. It was just the beginning. Just one day of showing up. But it was a start. And sometimes, a start is everything. 3 days later, Sunday afternoon arrived. Elon woke up early, already anxious. He checked his phone. The alarms were set. He checked his calendar. The afternoon was blocked. He checked his email. Responses to his boundary email ranged from confused to supportive, but no one had challenged him directly. At 1:30 p.m., he got in his car and drove to Vivian's apartment. He arrived 15 minutes early and sat in the parking lot, his heart pounding. At exactly 1:58 p.m., he walked up to her door and knocked. Vivian opened it. She looked tired but smiled when she saw him. "You came," she said. "I promised I would," Elon replied. "Come in." They spent the next 2 hours together, just talking. About nothing important and everything important. About her art classes. About Marcus's medical school stress. About baby names they were considering. About the upcoming surgery consultation. Elon's phone stayed in his pocket. Turned on, but ignored. It buzzed a few times. He didn't check it. At one point, Vivian got up to make tea. While she was in the kitchen, Elon's phone buzzed insistently. A call from SpaceX, something about the Starship prototype, and he looked at it. Then he declined the call and put the phone face down on the table. When Vivian came back with the tea, she noticed. "Was that important?" she asked. "No," Elon said honestly. "Nothing is more important than being here with you." Vivian's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you." The weeks that followed became a new rhythm in Elon's life. Every Sunday at 2 o'clock, he showed up at Vivian's apartment. No excuses, no delays, no distractions. The first Sunday, they talked about her art. The second Sunday, Marcus joined them, and they discussed the fetal surgery option. Elon listened more than he spoke, letting them make their own decisions. The third Sunday, Vivian showed him the ultrasound images and explained what the doctors had said. He held her hand and told her the baby was already perfect, exactly as they were. By the fourth Sunday, something had shifted. Vivian seemed more relaxed around him. She laughed at his awkward jokes. She let him feel the baby kick through her belly, a tiny flutter against his palm that made his eyes water. "That's your grandchild," Vivian said softly, saying hello. Elon couldn't speak. He just kept his hand there, feeling that small life moving inside his daughter. At work, things were harder. Board members questioned his new boundaries. Executives pushed back on his unavailability. Projects slowed down because he wasn't responding immediately to every crisis. But Elon held firm. Every Sunday, his phone went silent. Every Sunday, he chose his family. He also started calling his other children. Griffin first, then the triplets. Long conversations where he actually listened instead of just waiting to give advice. And he learned things about them he'd never known. Griffin was struggling with anxiety. Saxon was questioning whether he wanted to follow in his father's footsteps or forge his own path. Damien had a girlfriend Elon had never heard about. He'd been so absent that his children's entire lives had been happening without him knowing. He called Justine too. That conversation was harder. "I failed them," he told her. "I failed you. I'm sorry." Justine was quiet for a long moment. "Yes, you did. But at least you're finally admitting it. That's something." "I'm trying to do better," Elon said. "With Vivian?" "Yes, she's pregnant." "Did you know?" "She told me," Justine said. "And about the spina bifida diagnosis. I've been helping her research doctors and treatment options." Of course she had. And Justine had always been there for their children in ways Elon hadn't. "I want to do better with all of them," Elon said. "Not just Vivian. All our kids." "Then do it," Justine said simply. "Don't tell me. Show them." So he did. He started showing up to Griffin's robotics competitions. He took the triplets to dinner once a month. He had video calls with his younger children, the ones with Grimes, and actually paid attention to what they were saying. It wasn't perfect. He still messed up sometimes. He still got distracted. But he was trying. Really trying. In June, 3 months after that first meeting at Zilker Park, Vivian and Marcus decided to go ahead with the fetal surgery. It was risky, but the doctors thought it could improve outcomes. Elon was there in the hospital waiting room at 5 a.m. on surgery day, and he sat with Marcus while they waited. 6 hours of surgery. 6 hours of not knowing if everything would be okay. His phone buzzed constantly. A Tesla quarterly earnings call was scheduled for that afternoon. He was supposed to present to investors. He texted his assistant, "Cancel it. Reschedule. I'm not available." Marcus noticed. "You don't have to stay. I know you have." "I'm staying," Elon said firmly. "There's nowhere else I need to be." The surgery was successful. The doctors closed the opening in the baby's spine while still in utero. Recovery would take weeks, but the prognosis was good. When they finally let Vivian wake up, groggy from anesthesia, the first thing she asked was, "Is the baby okay?" "The baby's fine," Marcus told her, holding her hand. Everything went perfectly." Vivian looked past Marcus to where Elon sat in the corner of the recovery room. "You stayed," she said, her voice thick with medication and emotion. "Of course I stayed," Elon said. "I promised you I would." Tears rolled down Vivian's cheeks. "You really did. You really showed up." Over the following months, as Vivian's pregnancy progressed, Elon continued showing up. Every Sunday, every doctor's appointment she wanted him at, every ultrasound, every moment she needed him. He also started seeing a therapist, Dr. Chen, a specialist in grief and trauma. They talked about Nevada, about the guilt Elon had carried for 22 years, about the walls he'd built to protect himself from ever feeling that vulnerable again. "You can't control death," Dr. Chen told him in one session. "Nevada's death wasn't your fault. But your response to it, shutting down emotionally, prioritizing work over relationships, that was a choice. And you can make a different choice now." "I'm trying," Elon said. "I know you are, and that's what matters. Not perfection, just consistent effort." In September, Vivian graduated from UT Austin with her degree in psychology and art. Elon sat in the audience with Justine, Griffin, and the triplets. all of them together for the first time in years. When Vivian walked across the stage to receive her diploma, her pregnant belly visible under her graduation gown, Elon stood and cheered loudly. She looked into the audience, found him, and smiled. After the ceremony, they all went to dinner together, the whole family. It was awkward at times. Years of distance couldn't be erased in one meal, but it was a start. "I'm proud of you," Elon told Vivian, "for everything, for graduating, for fighting through the hard times, for choosing to live, for giving me another chance." "I'm proud of you too, Dad," Vivian said, "for actually changing, for showing up, for proving me wrong about you being unable to put down your phone." Elon laughed. "I still struggle with it, but I'm getting better." "You are," Vivian agreed. "You really are." On October 3, 2024, at 6:42 a.m., Vivian went into labor. Marcus called Elon at 7:15 a.m. "It's time," Marcus said, trying to sound calm but clearly nervous. "We're heading to the hospital." Elon was at Del Seaton Medical Center by 7:45 a.m. He'd canceled everything for the day. The world could wait. His grandchild was being born. Labor lasted 14 hours. Elon sat in the waiting room with Justine. When they talked about their children, about the mistakes they'd made, about hoping to do better as grandparents than they'd done as parents. "You've changed," Justine said. "I didn't think you could, but you have." "Vivian changed me," Elon said. "She told me something I wasn't ready to hear, and it broke me open. Sometimes you need to be broken to become something better." At 8:23 p.m., Marcus came out to the waiting room. He was crying and smiling at the same time. "It's a girl," he said. "A healthy baby girl. She's perfect. Absolutely perfect." "And Vivian?" Elon asked, standing up quickly. "Vivian's amazing. Tired, but amazing. She wants to see you." Elon followed Marcus down the hallway to the recovery room. His heart pounded with every step. Vivian lay in the hospital bed, exhausted and radiant, holding a tiny bundle wrapped in a pink blanket. When she saw Elon, she smiled. "Dad, come meet your granddaughter." Elon walked over on shaky legs. He looked down at the baby in Vivian's arms. She was tiny and red-faced and absolutely beautiful. Her eyes were closed. Her little fists were curled up by her face. "What's her name?" Elon whispered. Vivian looked at Marcus, who nodded. Then she looked back at Elon. "Her name is Nova," Vivian said. "Nova Hope Chen. We wanted to honor Nevada, the brother I never met, the loss that shaped our whole family. But we also wanted her to represent hope. Hope that things can get better, that people can change, that love can heal." Elon felt his knees go weak. He sat down heavily in the chair beside the bed. "Can I hold her?" he asked. "Of course," Vivian said. She carefully transferred the baby into Elon's arms. Nova made a small sound, like a tiny bird, but didn't wake up. Elon looked down at his granddaughter. This small, perfect person who almost never existed. If Vivian had succeeded in taking her own life last July, Nova wouldn't be here. This moment wouldn't exist. "Hello, Nova," Elon whispered. "I'm your grandfather, and I promise you something right now. I promise I'll show up for you. I'll be present in your life. I'll watch you grow and I'll celebrate every milestone, not because of what you achieve, but because of who you are." Tears streamed down his face. "You're going to face challenges. The doctors say you might need more surgeries as you grow. You might need physical therapy. You might need assistive devices. But none of that matters. You're perfect exactly as you are. And you're so loved." Nova opened her eyes then, just for a moment. Dark eyes that looked right at him. Then she closed them again and went back to sleep. "She knows you," Vivian said softly. "She's been hearing your voice every Sunday for months. You're already part of her life." Elon looked up at his daughter. This brave, beautiful woman who had survived so much, who had given him a gift he didn't deserve, forgiveness and a chance to be better. "Thank you," he said, "for not giving up on me, for giving me this chance, for being strong enough to demand that I change." "Thank you for actually changing," Vivian replied, "for showing up, for choosing us." In that hospital room, holding his granddaughter while his daughter watched with tired, happy eyes, Elon Musk finally understood what mattered. Not Mars, not rockets, and not revolutionizing transportation or saving humanity or any of the grand missions he'd dedicated his life to. This moment, this tiny baby, this relationship with his daughter that had been broken and was slowly healing. This was the future worth fighting for. Not some abstract concept of consciousness spreading across the solar system, but these specific, real, messy, complicated humans right in front of him. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He didn't even glance at it. Whatever it was could wait. The world could wait. Because for the first time in 22 years, Elon Musk was exactly where he needed to be. Fully present, fully engaged, finally understanding that the mission to save humanity had to start with saving the relationships with the humans who called him Dad. Nova stirred in his arms, made another small sound, and settled back into sleep. And Elon held his granddaughter and knew, with absolute certainty, that he would keep his promise. He would show up every Sunday, every moment she needed him, for the rest of his life. Because that's what love really meant. Not grand gestures or promises, just showing up again and again and choosing the people who matter most. He'd finally learned what his daughter had tried to tell him that day at Zilker Park. Sometimes the most important mission isn't saving humanity in the future. Sometimes it's loving the humans you have right now. That was the end of this story about Elon Musk and his daughter Vivian. A story about absence and presence, about choices and second chances, about what really matters when everything else falls away. Sometimes the people we think have everything are missing the most important things. And sometimes it takes nearly losing everything to finally understand what's worth holding on to. We'd love to know. Where are you listening from right now? Drop a comment and tell us your city or country. It's amazing to connect with listeners from all around the world. If this story touched your heart or made you think about your own relationships, please hit that like button. It helps us reach more people who might need to hear this message. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more emotionally powerful stories like this one. We share stories that matter, stories about real human struggles, hope, and transformation. Finally, if you know someone who needs to hear this, maybe a parent who's too busy, a child who feels unseen, or anyone struggling with family relationships, please share this video with them. Sometimes a story can open doors that advice cannot. Spread kindness, spread awareness, and remember, it's never too late to show up for the people who matter most. Thank you for listening. We'll see you in the next story.